We're live. And we're live. Hey, everybody, it's a new day. And that's the name of this track. Yo, we're not fading to black. We're coming at you. Welcome to another live version of Beyond the Veil with your hosts, with the most, Drizzy and T. Beyond the Veil. Welcome, y'all. Welcome back. And yeah, just like that. What's going on, T?
Not much, man. Good day. A good day.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. A good day. So, man, lots been going on.
Indeed. We got them solar flares coming up on the 8th. Exciting stuff.
Yeah, man. So, are we looking at doomsday? What are we looking at, man? What's really good?
You know, all I know is probably going to be a lot of energy going on that day. That's all I really know. Get out there, get your Ray-Bans out, and get some footage from all around the country. That's all I can say.
Yeah, man. So, what bearing, if any, do you think this may be having on things like the Melanin Wars?
Man, this would potentially have a great deal to do with Melanin Wars. I mean, melanin transferring energy, the energy from that is, from what I understand, supposed to line up with the energy line of the planet. So if that line is energized, then we're supposed to have the potential through melanin to utilize that energy, potentially. You know what I mean? Potentially. So with the whole Melanin War and them trying to figure out what it does, how it works, what it affects, so forth and so on, this may be a very big day for those type of discoveries.
So, you know, you and I, we've been familiarized with quite a few different topics, subject matter, foundational areas of knowledge and information. Not so much popularized until recent, but
right.
Things like
we've been out there looking crazy for some years.
Right, like spiritual bloodline estates, right? Things like that. And the roles that they play in, you know, these sciences that have been recently more focused on. I mean, even the impact as far as within the military, I don't want to say community with referring to the military, but let's say with technologies that are being focused on for the advancement of military operations, even as far as defenses against the effects of things like what's coming up on April the 8th.
You know what? Just in light of you saying that, in New York, they substantially increased the presence of police in their subways and in their town, but they said that was due to the influx of immigrant violence with the new influx of people coming in. They said that was that to do with that. But it's just interesting that a few states have increased their military presence, their National Guard presence.
Right.
So that's interesting. I don't know if it necessarily corresponds, but as far as military and this time period, you know, they're seeming to be positioned in many different parts of the state. And it's an interesting thing to discover, for our later research, if those areas where they're heightening the National Guard presence correspond to the pathway of the eclipse. That would be interesting to discover.
I think it's there. I think that the elements of and evidence of that are there. I know here, in the territory in which I domicile, that there's supposed to be an increased presence. It's becoming more and more visible. But in this region, I mean, we're talking about as far back as 2016 or so. We're seeing, blackout vehicles, as some people refer to them, that were being transported to various locales throughout the state. And these are not U.S. military vehicles. Not saying it's not U.S. military technology that has been used in the construction or manufacturing of these vehicles, but these were definitely vehicles with a globe and an eagle.
Interestingly enough, that globe and the globe and eagle have a direct relation to because we were talking about bloodlines last show.
Mm-hmm.
That globe and that eagle have direct correspondence to an organization that is one of those family bloodlines organizations, the ones that are in power now that we call the 1% or whatever they call them. It's interesting to note that one of their symbologies is an eagle. And then the Olympics, those Olympic leaves that go up the side of the leaves. You know what I'm talking about? They got like I don't know what they're called, but they're like the Olympic leave curves that go up the side. That's also represented in that particular family's emblem. So, with people seeing those vehicles, I don't know that they have any direct relation, but with people seeing those vehicles, that's interesting because that organization, that particular family lineage organization, is directly connected to military activity. They are considered military, a military organization.
Now, are we referring to the Military Order of Jesus Christ, or are we referring to?
They're a subordinate part of that organization. They're a subordinate part of that organization. The organization I'm speaking of is the Tri organization. So that's what I was talking about.
Okay. Well, we were like discussing, the melanin aspect in this. We know what melanin is, a superconductor, right? We know that melanin is a blocker of unhealthy levels of UV radiation. It actually can heal damaged skin and damaged cells that have been exposed to excessive radiation and things like that. A friend of mine who, at one time I podcasted with and was still affiliated with Schwabel Room, shout out to Old Man Ali, sent me some information that dealt with employment for, I want to be careful how I say this, but at the same time keep it transparent. Occupational offers that would involve volunteering to share one's melanin for military operational purposes. And then, that led me down a little bit of a rabbit hole. And of course, most of us are familiar with, at least by name, if by no other association, with the melanin conferences.
Oh yes. Shout out to Bobby Hemmett.
Big shout out to Bobby Hemmett, Dr. Phil Valentine, Dr. Delbert Blair.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
But in searching those type of things, I came across something, and of course there are reference documents that one can access while following these chains and steps of research. But evaluating the conductive properties of melanin producing fungus, Curvularia lunata, after copper doping. And this is from the U.S. Army Engineer Research and Development Center, published in 2020. I might pull an image up for people just to take a look and see that.
Interesting note while you're pulling that up is the hallucinogenic mushrooms with psilocybin are considered master teachers. When a reference is made to them, they're called master teachers. And earlier we talked about melanin being a form of energy transfer. So, that's just an interesting note. They call mushrooms master teachers. They produce a level of melanin, which has an information exchange potential.
Indeed. I was watching a Joe Rogan episode or two, and I don't remember the guest that he had on, but respect, shout out to Joe Rogan Experience. Definitely a leader amongst podcasting, and funny guy, very talented guy, and just all around very astute in his observations of life and the people that I think he surrounds himself with that provide him with optimum opportunity and in advancement of knowledge. Let's put it that way. And so one of the guests he had on was speaking about Christianity and how one of the key sacred sacraments was actually the mushroom when gaining the true understanding or understanding of what the teachings of the Christ were supposed to be for us. It's interesting how it is connected somehow to melanin.
I'll even say there's a speculative theory corresponding to the manna from heaven explained within the text, the biblical text. Its growth description of being picked before the light, and the fact that they had cattle that was traveling with them. It is speculative theory suggests by the growth pattern that may have been speaking, the heavens manna may have been speaking directly of mushrooms.
So would that be also partially why the Hindus, and I know that's not their real name, so I apologize to you all who have to bear
Hindu
great understanding. The Indie people who don't eat the cow, could this be a reason, one of the reasons why the cow is sacred?
Yes, indeed. Even to the extent that they utilize what would be considered the fertilizing medium, they'll light it and use it in different incense that are considered to be highly cleansing and have other property uses for the health of the body.
Very interesting, right? Very interesting. One man's blank is another man's shinola, right?
Like I don't know if I want you lighting that up in here.
Yeah, I don't think I want to get closer to God that much. Like, that kind of thing. But everything was made for our use and for our betterment that we could apply. To better us and to cause us to grow spiritually. You know what I mean? So there's another document. Okay, yeah, let's I'm gonna share this one too. Dealing with melanin. And these are things you can look up yourself. Uh, it's not secret information, but just so you can see that there is no cap. Um, Large scale natural melanin production for military applications. And I'll just touch on this a little bit because I am not by any stretch of the imagination um, an expert on melanin, even though I am a purveyor, generator, and carrier of it, as many of the audience is and will be. In fact, anyone who comes across this, there are three types of melanin, and you definitely have all three type, even if one doesn't show on the surface. Uh, you definitely have it. So there are different levels of it, and there are advancements in having more, and there are drawbacks from having less, and there are both advancements of having less in some ways and drawbacks of having more. So it just everything in this universe requires a balance.
There's a show, and in this show, the children were turning into mutants. Do you remember this show? I'm gonna give you a description, and you tell me if you remember what it is. They the children had different levels of powers that were activating, and depending upon the power that was activated, they would place them in a color category. And depending on the color, depending on the power, they would be placed in a color category, and some were considered non-dangerous, and some were considered dangerous. You remember that show or movie?
I do not.
Hmm. Well, it just you saying that reminded me of that because we talked about melanin being a superconductor. So depending upon the level of energy and the amount of melanin you had in the type, it has the potential to feed your systems more electricity in whatever area you have the predominant amount of melanin in. You
Mm,
know, would be directly affected potentially.
gotcha. Are you able to read this on your side?
Let me see if I can widen it up here. Okay. Maybe it's a little hard to. I'm gonna have to slide across the screen as I read it, but yeah, I can read it.
Okay, it's okay if you want. I can read it because I have it up like pretty high, but I want to make
Okay.
sure you and the audience can see what I'm reading from is SBIR STTR, America's Seed Fund, powered by the SBA. Okay.
Hmm.
So bear with me. Un momento. Where did I go with that? Annual reports. They have a list of reports you can download and print out. But let's see. Do I have to back up? Back up. Back up. All right. So, large scale natural melanin production for military applications. Agency, Department of Defense, Branch Army. Contract. These are contract numbers, the amount of the contract,
Oh.
the agency tracking number, the solicitation topic code, and solicitation number. Year, award start date, award end date. The name of a company here, small business information. When you see the Duns and Bradstreet number, which those of us are into other certain information, and those who have started businesses should be familiar with Duns and Bradstreet numbers. But I'll read from this abstract. Melanin or melanins are natural pigments that are found in a wide range of living organisms, including bacteria, fungi, plants, and animals. Melanin pigments play play diverse and important roles, including protecting microorganisms against UV radiation, thermal regulation in lower vertebrates, and photoprotection of the skin in higher mammals. The most remarkable function of melanin is its capacity in radiation protection and energy transduction. The role of melanin in radiation protection
You
makes
said energy transduction?
indeed energy transduction.
Okay, okay.
I'm gonna let you go in on that once I complete reading this, because I know you have some interesting download information to transfer. Um, the role of melanin in radiation protection against melanin, a promising material for enhanced protection of military and civilian personnel against ionizing radiation and energy transduction in radioactive environments. Eumelanin, EUMELANIN, is the most studied of all classes of melanins. To address the Army's need for scalable production of naturally produced melanin for military applications, Lintech proposes to conduct a systematic study of melanin production from melanoma cell lines. And if I'm not mistaken, melanoma is a form of cancerous tumor. Um, and it might have another medical application at definition, but I am not familiar with any other such meaning. So forgive my ignorance if that be the case. I'm not
I
an
just
expert, once again, on melanin.
I would just like to throw another thing out there. Cancer of all types, including melanoma, increased at the increase of radio frequency availability to humanity as we brought TVs, cell phones, um, internet towers, and the increase of different coverage areas has caused increase in these different cancers or effects of these frequencies that have been studied and researched. Um, just want to
Yes.
add that.
And that propensity towards those who have a genetic propensity towards developing certain cancer types, of course, diet plays a huge role within that, because parasites, known by other world governments and their health administrative personnel, they're the leading cause of cancer. It's not just the processed proteins or meats and foods. It is the parasites that are caused by them that bring about the higher likelihood of developing full on, I want to say, is it metastatic and um, what's the other? Um, the cancers that grow and reproduce or grow at a rapid rate. Malignant cancers, that's the word I'm looking for. So, um, where did I leave off? Okay, my bad. So, to address the Army's need for scalable production of naturally produced melanin for military applications, Lintech proposes to conduct a systematic study of melanin production from melanoma cell lines and characterize the ability of the produced melanins in collecting, sharing, and releasing multiple forms of dispersed energy, excuse me. The goal of this phase one effort is to determine an optimal pathway towards large scale productions of eumelanin while retaining desirable natural properties. So, yeah, being able to replicate natural forms of melanin as opposed to the synthetic melanin, which, if you really do your research, you will find that data as well. That they have
Now,
already.
now, so does this mean to say that natural melanin is acquired from whatever living being possesses it, and then synthetic melanin is produced in a laboratory.
Yes, yes, and replicated from the cells of the bioorganisms of whatever sort they have drawn them from.
So if they just discovered this, and these melanin conferences have been going on since at least I know the 70s.
40 years, yeah.
So then all of the previous research until this discovery was based on natural melanin.
Always.
Okay.
And then, of course, now you have biotech companies that have learned how to bioengineer using both organic and synthetic melanin to apply within their technologies. So we're talking about AI within AI.
And so their energy transference level, they're trying to increase their ability to transfer information. I mean, just potentially as a scientific thinker, I'm looking at this and
Not
they're
just
trying.
potentially. You went to the next phase. You went to the whole next phase because yes, as I hinted, AI within the AI, you have the ability to protect both man and machine, if desired, from, for example, EMP blasts. While they would say, and even the AI, when I used the AI to research this earlier in the week, there's no plausible conclusion. They state that melanin is a viable defense against an EMP blast. But let's say theoretically, if there were sunspots or coronal mass ejections that give the same or similar effects on electronic devices and machinery that are electric based, they said there's no plausible evidence that that would defend or protect against it. But why is such a push with these highly funded programs that are not made extremely public, but still considered public enough to where it's not top secret, where they're actually recruiting volunteers? Now, they already have fungus, as I stated earlier, that they're doping with copper. What people are known as the copper complected races found by
And
Europeans.
and we talked about the composition of melanin being based on the levels of melanin which are present in the body. So we spoke of 3 different types of melanin. And then, though, another interesting note about those 3 different types of melanin is depending upon which one you have the higher levels of, your skin pigment will directly correspond to whatever that is. That
Eye color, hair color, complexion. Not only those 3 things, but those are mainly affected by eumelanin, which is the highest studied form of melanin of the 3. Because we have neuromelanin, and what's the other melanin? I think I sent it to you
yeah, you did. Let me take a look here
in
so
the
I
Google
can.
the chat in the chat. But forgive me, y'all. I am not an expert, but I am still learning. And thank you for growing and vibing with us on that. Now, here's the thing. While the AI would say it's not a viable form, let me just show you the contradiction of this real quick before I forget and we move on completely and leave this valuable tidbit out. You see this, T?
Yes.
What's it say?
This is the product of natural melanin, affordable EMP shielding. Oh my. Oh,
For
okay.
production of natural, keyword natural melanin for affordable EMP shielding.
Now, this brought me to an interesting note. They say some are children of the sun, and some genetic types and melanin forms are negatively affected by um, naturally occurring sun in high levels. And who knows what types of effect solar eclipses, lunar eclipses, um, and the Earth, because the Earth also produces an energy field. Who knows how those directly affect a person? So if they're saying a disease can be created by a level of energy, which is your radios and different frequencies, then if they did that to a person who had light skin, that would give us one study. A person who had dark skin would give another study. And at this time, the two melanin types that are heavily present in never, no, let me finish. The two melanins that have been most studied are in other races, and then you have the neuromelanin, which is most present in the heavily pigmented people who have been researched. We know they have been researched in projects. They've been researched through what was that? They gave syphilis to people. There was syphilis given to people and different diseases given to people. So they've been.
You're talking about the Tuskegee experiment?
Yep, the Tuskegee
Okay.
experiment. Then they have also other military programs that had. They did studies.
Wasn't that run by the Army also?
Yes, indeed,
Mm.
yes, indeed. Which I mean, speculative theory states that goes back to that family lineage organization earlier mentioned. They're heavily involved in building and technologies that are utilized in wars all over the world.
How well can you see the print here? Can you see this fairly well?
Okay, let's see here.
It's okay. It's
No,
okay. I know you're going from the phone, but
yeah,
yeah.
I can't see it very. I can't see it very well. What does it say?
Okay. So I blew it up, and I understand because you have a smaller screen. That's no biggie. So technology areas, materials. Let me hold on. I have to back out of this screen just so I can get the precursor. So this is still the same document. Production of natural melanin for affordable EMP shielding. Department of Defense Branch Army. Okay. Uh, Note, the solicitations and topics listed on this site are copies from the various SBIR agency solicitations and are not necessarily the latest and most up to date. For this reason, you should use the agency link listed below, blah, blah, blah. And that's the link. Y'all who want to copy it, https://www.acq.osb/OSB/SBIR/index.shtml. But for the purposes of today's show, program, and entertainment and educational value, technology areas, materials, objective, prototype, solid melanin-based material for additional application testing, such as harvesting thermal energy for cold weather, vehicle, clothing, coating, EMP shielding, radiation shielding, countermeasure, prophylaxis, stored energy, and energy release. Now, what I'm about to go into next under this description, I hope y'all hear me. I hope y'all really hear me. Melanin is a biological polymer. I want y'all to go and research polymer. Once employed in the plastics industry, I found out that polymers were, at least in the context of manufacturing, in that instance, dealt with small, tiny particles of a substance that would be turned into a plastic. That's all I'm going to give you on that right this moment. But melanin is a biological polymer that possesses many desirable properties with clear army applications in dampening radar signatures, EMP shielding, radiation protection, cold condition protection, energy storage, transduction, and an alternate circuit material. Naturally produced melanin absorbs energy in many different forms. UV, or ultraviolet, visible light, ionizing radiation, electromagnetic. It binds toxic materials, metals, oxidizing agents, free radicals, and provides structural strength. Melanins are believed to be the primary protective mechanism for microorganisms that survive in harsh environments like Chernobyl, Fukushima, and Antarctica.
Can I add on right there that the what are called chemtrails consist of different types of metals and different types of there's a new one with iron. I can't think of what it is right now. But the interesting note is when I was reading about melanin, I discovered that melanin has a direct interaction with this iodine substance and direct reaction with specified metals. So if an energy transfer of any type is coming to melanin, and melanin has a specific reaction to certain metals and ionize, if you were running a test on a larger level, then depending upon how you in my city it's set up that the melanated people live here, the Chinese people have Chinatown, the Seoul people have this town, and everybody's in their own areas pretty much, except for mixed areas and mixed families. But interesting to note that if you wanted to see how those things were going to affect people, then that compilation being put into the air during energy transfers of the solar type, of the lunar type, of the Earth's own electrical field type, then you would be able to notice those direct effects if you could have a area of coverage that had a predominant race of people, because again we spoke of that's how your pigment is determined, by the levels of melanin. Just a thought. And you reading this, it just made me think of that.
Indeed. I mean, Dick Gregory and many others from our previous generation spoke on manganese levels, where they mostly placed the steel mills, what neighborhoods they placed the steel mills, and the aluminum extrusion plants. So we would have these high concentrations of iron, aluminum, and manganese in the air that would drive people to extremes of violence, domestic violence, murder. Those crimes were seen more in those areas because those people were under a higher concentrative cloud of these ionizing radiations in the form of these metals, and it would attack the melanin or uh, the melanated environmental forces, if you will. But yeah, it says it binds toxic materials, metals, oxidizing agents, free radicals, and provides structural strength. Melanins are believed to be the primary protective mechanism for microorganisms. Um, yeah. This is extremely interesting. So, wow. Experimental mice injected with melanin survive otherwise lethal doses of gamma radiation. Melanin absorbs solar radiation and could be used to improve solar panels for energy harvesting. No wonder they want to turn us into machines. While this material represents extraordinary properties, exploitation for military applications is impossible without scale production of naturally biologically produced version. Synthetic melanin is estimated to be 40 to 60% less efficient than naturally derived melanin.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened, but you were reading, and so the synthetic doesn't have enough as much conductivity as the naturally occurring melanin.
Correct. Research on industrial production of natural melanin will allow for future structural studies on why synthetic melanin lacks several properties. I think I've given enough as far as the receipts go. What do you think? There's some reference information here. People want to go ahead and look this up, dig further into it. I don't know, what type of time we're working with because, you know,
Ye- ye-
upcoming occurrences, pre-planned and also overdue because of, you know, the last time they occurred, like a solar eclipse. But
yeah. Mhm.
I
And
would
then
tell you
I just
not to panic so much, even if you're not
not at all.
gifted with the surface melanin. That doesn't mean it's doomsday for you either. We don't promote that sort of talk here. We just try to keep it 100. Not try. We keep it 100 at a fault, regardless, without intentionally being controversial or perverse in our speech. We express the truth, uh, and we're transparent. Transparently speaking, we could save one another. Let's stick together and fuck the rigmarole. Sorry to use the language, but I'm not being profane because no one is praying or singing a worship hymn at this moment. We're not in a structured service in the worship and honor of an entity or deity. So, I hope that you all are not offended. But if you are, hey, get used to it. No,
Shit
but
happens. No.
right there you go. It does. It does. Bullshit. Shit happens. Shit rolls downhill, and hope floats. So we don't have to hope if we know. We just know we need to stick together. It's about to get real out here.
And then just an interesting note I wanted to add at the end that I don't think I said in the video. Elijah Muhammad in his letter of germ description of melanin, man, it sounded like he was talking in code about melanin. It sounded like he said the brown and white germ, the black germ, the such and such germ was responsible for creating all of these different races. If there's one category that all of those germs creation are up under, that is melanin. So that was an interesting note too.
And in his prime, we must remember that word was accurate. If you were to go back into the books that were available for him to have studied, that his master teacher referred him to, I'll just leave it at that. Some still with the Library of Congress. You would have to know the titles to understand what you're looking for. But nonetheless, they're there. He was accurate, and he was expressing in the modern terminology what we would call genetics, DNA molecules. Um, when you're dealing with simplistically structured thinking folks, no insult at all. These people were geniuses on other intuitive levels, and some of them, their genius was expressed through their hands. You're talking about farmers. You're talking about people who had occupations that we take for granted now because we have almost everything at our fingertips in our command. But yes, absolutely, he definitely talked about this and the expression of these genetics, uh, and the importance of melanin and its effect on these genetics and how they're displayed in various types of people. Absolutely. So we were going to go into some bloodline and spiritual estates, but we can continue that in the next episode. We certainly appreciate those who have watched or will watch and are going to continue to watch. Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe.
And as always, peace and perfected resonance with your highest good in your right now moments.
In your right now moments. Peace be unto you. Thank you for joining us. This has been Beyond the Veil. I'm Jay.Drewz. It's T Manu. Uh-oh.